welcome back to Set the Table. This is episode 9, in which we are going to talk about character death in role-playing games. I am John, and with me as always is Jack.
How's it going, eh?
And we're here to talk about tabletop role-playing games. And in particular this time we're talking character death. But like we have been doing, what have you played since last time?
So, since last time, I have played in my 5e game with my Frightening Snurfneblin Bard. We've done. She finally actually got to be a bard. It's happened a couple times in the adventure. I shouldn't say finally. That's not fair. But she got to get on stage and sing. So she got this fabulous dress and almost rolled a nat 20 on her performance, which was awesome.
Oh,
and
nice.
and set the whole crowd a buzz. She sang basically, I've got her mapped out kind of as a lounge singer, so she did a lot of Eartha Kitt numbers. I Want to Be Evil and the Cole Porter song Let's Do It. And so my group in Roll20 was listening to me playing MP3s of those songs as she was that kind of as background music as I'm describing what she's doing. But
Nice.
it was pretty good. She got to be a bard, and she's slowly kind of building up her. Basically, the party does jobs for the town guard, right? That's kind of the way the adventure is structured.
Sure.
Every 10-day, they get a checklist, and they have to do the stuff on the checklist if they want to stay in the good graces of the guards and make a little spending money. So my character is kind of like, yeah, this kind of sucks. I'm gonna get my own set of guards and do whatever the hell I want to do.
Nice.
So that's what she's doing now. She's embarked on this whole, I'm gonna build up my own little army and tell the guards to pound sand.
Cool.
So what did you do?
Well, as we are going to be talking about death soon, my group had a big drama episode. They are the bounty hunter warlock met with the mayor of this town a while back when he was searching for his quarry of the player who's playing the warlock bounty hunter was playing a tiefling barbarian, and so his new character is like met the group because he was hunting his old character, and he passed through the last town that they knew that his old character had gone through, and he had talked to the mayor of that town. Since then, that mayor's kids found him and were like, "Hey, we escaped, but the town is seriously messed up again, and everyone was killed, and please help us." So they're going to the town. They spend a day observing, chatting up a guard, gathering some info on who the targets should be and who they're gonna kill to avenge these kids' dad's murder, and they decide that Nana, our monk rogue infiltrator, was gonna go in and murder the mayor for ordering the death of the father that the warlock knew. So Nana goes in, cover of night, great stealth checks, gets to the mayor's bedroom in his manor, and it's him and his wife, and he's thrown for a loop. And he decides to silence the room, knock out the mayor, stuff him into a bag of holding, and run out of there, all while his wife was, screaming in a zone of silence. So not screaming. She got out, pulled him all the way out, outskirts of townish, because the manor is sort of on the northern edge. Pulls him out of the bag, bind him, gag him, and drag him about a mile through soggy hills after midnight in the rain. And there they orchestrated a pretty farcical trial by the bard Connie. And between Connie, Venrin, and Athorion, after maybe 45 minutes of, well, I'm supposed to do this for the Kingdom of East Castle, but the mayor, isn't in service of East Castle. He's in service of a different queen. So was war declared, and is he a prisoner of war? And all this nonsensical discussion about whether or not they're going to kill him. Um, and Nana decides to slink off into the shadows and get a sneak attack bolt off on the mayor from a crossbow right between the eyes, killing him instantly. The party argued for a while after that before a mysterious gust blew a monastic messenger um, into the party's presence, called for Nana using her real name, and gave her a note before disappearing in the breeze mysteriously. The party was shocked, but um, concerned because Connie started to walk off because he was like, I don't know that I can be a part of this anymore if we're just killing people because kids ask us to. And there was some extra arguments. Nana slipped away into the darkness, and Connie walked off to tiny hut himself somewhere far away, and the other two remaining members of the party found a slightly drier spot up a little bit of a hill as the rain stopped in the wee hours of the morning. Um, the guy, Dave, my player who's playing Nana, is taking a break for a little while. He is DMing several other games and is gonna start studying to take his bar exam soon. So he's taking a break for a little while. He had a bit of an out there, which made some party members sad. And then Connie's little outburst was like a little bit of a sort of a moral, ethical quandary. And so I didn't have anybody die. I've had people leave, and maybe other characters are taking a step back. So big drama from my group, and I think big drama is kind of gonna roll into our theme here because we're talking about player death. Um, and we we came to do this episode last time when we were talking about
Well,
player
I'm gonna,
types.
I'm gonna have to ask for a reattack here. Um, I did play 5e, and I'm not playing 7th C yet. But I guess my second, I should have tacked this on in my space there.
No, it's
Uh,
okay.
but I am finishing up the starting point of a 7th C second edition adventure that you and I and a couple of other folks are going to start here pretty soon.
Yes, that will be
It's
good. We'll be able to do our deep dive on 7th Sea, which will be fun. I'm
it's
looking forward to the adventure.
it's it's such a different modality. It's a different way of thinking about an RPG and plan. So the GM in 7th C is much more. It's much more collaborative. It's a lot more like Fiasco. Uh, so while I'm writing certain stories and I'm putting together some history for some NPCs, I get to a point and it's like, oh, I have to stop. Like this is where the heroes come in, and I don't know what's going to happen after this. um, so it's kind of it's been a lot of fun. I've gotten a whole story put together about an art school in Vodachi that is the proprietor has kind of crawled into a wine bottle, and some other stuff is going on around him, and it should be a lot of fun and exciting. I love the so for those listeners who don't do the 7th Sea world, Vodachi is the analogy for Renaissance Italy. So
Okay.
there's a lot of intrigue and political manipulations and machinations. And it's
We
just
talking
really,
like Assassin's Creed feelings?
yeah, very much so.
Okay.
Yeah. The setting for 7th Sea is Assassin's Creed 2, Princess Bride, Three Musketeers, Pirates of the Caribbean.
Very
Um,
cool.
it's very very cool, and the writing is. I had to read a bunch of this week I've been reading. I reread the Three Musketeers. I reread the Connecticut Yankee and King Arthur's Court, little Mark Twain, just to get my writing style and storytelling kind of in the right frame of mind. So
Nice. Good little writing tip there. Um,
yes,
are we likely to face death in Seventh Sea?
so we can talk. We can talk
I don't want
about.
to talk. I don't want to
No,
get into Seventh Sea very much because I don't know a whole lot about it yet. But
well, that's kind of so when we talk about player death, okay. My mind, you know me. I play lots of different RPGs. I'm not just a 5e Pathfinder kind of guy.
mhm,
Uh, so when we look at player death, there's a spectrum of games out there where you are going to die.
sure, sure.
Okay. If you play Alien from Free League Publishing and you're playing in a cinematic, you are going to die. If
Well, or people around, or everyone else is going to die.
right, most of your party is going to die. If
Sure.
you're playing Paranoia from Mongoose Publishing,
Oh, yep.
you're encouraged to die. Like you
Yeah.
should die in the funniest way possible because you're a clone and there are six of you. In fact, you can't get full experience points for an adventure if you come back with all six clones, you don't get full experience points.
Ah, that's fun. Okay, you kind of have to die.
You have
Um,
to die. If you want to get rewarded, you have to die. Um,
in Ten Candles, everyone dies by the end of the adventure. So
yeah,
that's go out in the most, heroic or funny way that you can.
and Fiasco has that the denouement, the what the hell's it called? The montage, the ending montage, right? Based on how you played the game, your character is either going to die or I think one of the tables it says worse than death.
um,
When we played, I think my farmer wound up in a really cheap nursing home with dementia and didn't remember his name.
oh, that is that is potentially worse.
Worse, yeah, yeah. So there are those games where you are you it's highly encouraged. It's part of the game. Everybody kind of knows it's part of the game. I mean, I think the next step up is probably DCC Dungeon Crawl Classics or Mutant Crawl Classics. Any of the Goodman games.
Yeah,
Uh,
you're gonna lose people in the funnel.
those games, if you're playing the funnel, you're gonna die. And then if you make it through the funnel, you know that life is cheap, and I think that works for DCC because character generation is so fast.
Hmm.
Um, the games are fun, but they aren't the long involved, right? It's not Pathfinder
Yeah,
where I've got a 400-page adventure path in 6 volumes that I'm trying to get through. Um, it's a 20-page dungeon, and if I die on page 16, I had a good time and it was lots of fun. And hey, what's in
we
this basket? Oh my
we've ta-
gosh, there's a halfling in this basket. Can I play that? Yeah, here you go. Here's a player character you found up tied in a basket. Keep going.
we've talked about. I think we've mentioned the funnel a couple of times, and the DCC funnel is, to my understanding, I when we played it, I got 4 level 0 characters, and they're little half sheets because DCC is pretty simple. But I got 4 characters, and we ran through this adventure, and whoever was left at the end and did, more than nothing, became level 1, and then those characters are the ones that we've played a couple times more. But that was really fun because I had options I could try out a couple different characters and see which ones I wanted to try to keep alive.
And
Um,
you're not really committed to anything, right? I mean, it's like here's
yes,
4 characters. It's like, oh, I have a halfling beet farmer. I have a human
named Dwight.
black. Yeah, well, I have a human beet farmer, right? We'll do Dwight Schrute. I have a halfling haberdasher. I have an elf mushroom farmer, and I have a blacksmith, human blacksmith, and here we go.
Yeah.
And you're right. I mean, you don't spend a lot of time being invested in your character's backstory. You just kind of play and you have a good time.
I
And
mean,
I
you
think
can spend time on it, but
sure, but the risk is that that character is going to open up a door and there's this big naked granite guy pointing at you and a gout of flame gashes from his finger and burns you and the four people standing behind you into cinders.
and everybody's down to 3 characters. Yeah, no, that's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Death can be fun.
It can, and it, but you have to, it's, if it's built into the system, yes. And I'm gonna cough, so you might want to mute me here for a second.
You mute. That's fine. Don't worry about it.
I don't have the
Um,
um but so then I'm kind of doing this by system, and I'm moving kind of up the scale from, hey, you're supposed to die, death is fun, to you probably should expect to die. And then I'm looking at my shelf now, and I'm looking at you, Call of Cthulhu, where
it's
one of my really good friends who plays a lot of Call of Cthulhu said, if you reach for the gun, or if you put a gun in your inventory, you're gonna wind up shooting yourself.
yeah, that's the worse than death. Most of those are worse than death.
Right. Yep. The most of those are worse than death. But that Call of Cthulhu is another game you can. It's not implicit in. It's not implied in the rules, but you should infer it from the theme. Right. You're playing a horror
Right.
game.
Right.
Most of the things that you're coming up against are, your character has no knowledge of them. They're resistant to physical damage. They generate sanity loss. Like you, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's supposed to be that, nightmarish crawl through hell.
and part of that drama is losing someone along the way.
Hmm. Yeah, it can be it it can be novel. I was gonna say it can be good, but that's not necessarily right. It can be novel. It can be something that brings a group together or
Yes. Yep.
pushes them forward from a particularly bad spot. Sometimes it's just tragic.
Sure.
Um, I in I think I mentioned it in an earlier episode, but a while back in my main campaign, uh, Katrana, the druid, was exploring in a lake where it was rumored that there were mermaids, and so she wild shapes into an octopus. It's
Yeah.
magic, so
Yep.
freshwater octopus. Yeah, I talked about this a bit. S-
Yep.
so she goes out into the lake, maybe 250 feet below the surface. Octopus, not stealthed or camoed, gets attacked and fights with a marrow that defeats her, um, and rescued at the last moment by mermaids, and the party joins with her again later. But she didn't know what was going to happen from that, and um, I didn't expect for her to get caught out, and I didn't expect for her to be killed by a single marrow. So or I think a nearby future episode, if not the next episode, is going to be fudging rolls, because I think that plays in pretty heavily, especially when you're dealing with something as strong as fudging something for a death. Um, Not that there were rolls that had to be fudged there. That was, oh, you're dead. Start making death saving throws, but don't worry about it because the mermaids are right there. You're just unconscious, and you don't get to know that for another week. Um,
Right.
and she was Callie, the player who plays Katrana, was pretty upset by that. Um, to be fair, it is her like first tabletop role play game character that she's been able to get really into and spend time playing, and that can be pretty crummy.
Sure. And that's kind of in and that's kind of where I'm at, kind of in my list of, hey, you should die if you're playing this game, to death 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 isn't funny anymore. Um, is when we get into things like Savage Worlds, Pugmire, Monkeys or Mao, 5e, Pathfinder, Starfinder, Traveler. I mean, there's a whole group of games where you make your character and you roll the dice, and the dice kind of determine whether you live or die. Um,
More
and
or
that's
less.
more or less right. And that's that. In my mind, that's kind of the big middle, right? You have a bunch of games, a slew of games where dying is fun. You have some games where you're playing the game and dying is not unexpected, right? Like Call of Cthulhu.
Hmm.
And then you get into your standard tabletop RPG families, where dying sucks.
Well, it does. I think that is a misconception.
Really?
It might be the popular attitude, but it's a misconception.
Yeah.
Because like if you're
Yeah.
playing, so all of it, right? It doesn't necessarily matter what genre or system you're playing. Because even you take the most lenient DM in Call of Cthulhu, and even he'll be, oh, okay, the Shoggoth doesn't tear you apart, but you are very, very hurt. Like you can, it's definitely more DM dependent, I think.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
Well, I think it's table dependent because the
Oh,
DM
sure,
has
sure.
a story, but if you've got a rules lawyer at the table and they're like, "No, no, man, he just tanked his last death saving throw. He's out,"
Right, then
and
you
you're like,
just homebrew something if you need
"Right,
to, right? Like the mermaids rescuing Katrana. Like,
yep."
okay, that happened.
But then there are a few, and I've only played a couple, and Seventh Sea Second Edition is one of them where it takes a tremendous amount of resources to kill a player character in 7C.
Hmm.
In fact, during your session zero, when you generate your character, one of the things you'll talk about with your GM is how you see your character dying.
Well, okay. Could I just say I don't? Like they're gonna retire and die in a.
Absolutely, they're gonna retire to a villa in Castile, and drink wine and play with their grandkids and reminisce about the good old days, with their friend. And you're like, yeah, okay, cool. That's your goal, for your character, then we'll try to work that story towards that angle. Now, a lot of people say, "Oh, it takes the risk out of it," right? I mean,
Well,
I
it.
this weekend, or this Monday, my character got knocked to 0 hit points, and was going to make her first death saving throw until the paladin reached over and slapped a, lay on hands on her. Um, and that was exciting and fun. The difference with 7C is that you can, as a GM, I can kill a character, but I have to have done a tremendous amount of damage to them. I have to have a villain, an actual named villain. So in Seventh Sea, if you're fighting a bunch of unnamed brutes on the pirate ship, and the pirate captain hasn't shown himself yet, unnamed brutes don't kill heroes. They knock them out and they bring
Hmm.
them to the evil boss. It's very cinematic. It's
Okay.
very, if you've seen The Princess Bride, you've watched the Seventh Sea Adventure.
All right.
Okay, Wesley never dies, right, and neither does.
Right.
um,
Right. 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 It's that the movie vibe.
right. It's definitely cinematic. It's definitely got that movie vibe. But a GM can murder a PC, and it's actually, there's a whole chapter in the rule book about murdering PCs. You have to spend a danger point out of your danger pool. You only have 1 danger point per player character per session.
Okay.
Now, there are mechanics to give you danger points, just like there are mechanics to give heroes hero points. But I have to have a danger point. I have to have a named villain in the scene, and your character has to be incapacitated, and then I can pay a danger point and kill you off. So it's very
Huh.
hard to kill a player. Now, if you make bad rolls, the story just keeps getting harder and harder to finish, but you don't die, right? You may you're going to spend the next 2 years in a Castilian jail because you were at the party and you insulted the clergy and somebody found out and now you're in jail for 2 years. It's like, damn, this is really this is holding my story back. Yeah, sorry, you're in prison for 2 years. Um,
Huh.
the rest of
Okay.
the party, what are you doing? Well, he's in prison for 2 years. It's like, oh damn, are we gonna wait for him or are we gonna go do something else?
Right.
But again, that's the way the system was architected to give people that cinematic where I'm the hero, right? There's no alignments in the game either. You're always good, right? And if you do bad things, you take corruption, and if you take too much corruption, you become an NPC. The GM just takes your character away. Like, give me that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's you mentioned that that's something that would come up in session 0, and so I think talking about death, or at least having it come up in session 0 as you are deciding what system to play and how you want the game to kind of go as a group. Because right, you could decide, hey, we don't want to deal with death. We want a cinematic experience. Um, we'll play 7C, or we want to play 5e. We want that in 5e, which is how I tend to kind of run my games. Is I've got a large overarching story that I would like my players to be able to live through and ideally become the heroes of.
Sure.
And so I'm not, first and foremost, as the DM, it's not players versus DM. It's DM creating a world that is against the players. So I'm not there to try to kill them. I'm there to be the dragon that is trying to kill them. Um,
And that's very table specific too, because my group, um, there we joke. We actually out of character joke about what's my oh crap, I failed my savings. I'm at half my hit points. No, this Monday, like I got knocked off my centaur, who is my de, de facto mount, uh, knocked to negative hit points, and I go, well, I think I'm gonna play a rogue next. Like and the standard response in the whole group. Like, you botch a roll in the middle of combat, and any one of the players I play with will start saying, I think next time I want to be what's the turtle race? Those guys are cool. Maybe I'll play one of those. And it's but that's the way that the table we're playing on roll 20, but I always say
right.
the table. But
No, we
that's
got it.
the vibe at the table is, you know, the chips fall where the chips fall, and the dice love you some nights, and the dice kill you some other nights, and then it just gives you a chance to explore a different character. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
I've got a ton of backstory for my character, and I really enjoy playing her, and the rest of the party really enjoys having her around. But they enjoyed my Tabaxi monk who lost a bar fight to the death. He was hilarious, and everybody had fun with him because he had a really high wisdom and a really low intelligence. So he would say these really wise things, but then take some instructions very literally. Um, like the guards asked us to find out how many people were in this unregistered thieves guild. So what does Steps on Tail do? He walks up. Hey, how many guys are in this house? What the hell are you doing? Guard asked us how
Nice.
many people were in the house. uh, but and
let's
he's gone. He's dead, right? And he died because the dice did not favor him on that in that one combat scene. So
yeah. So
you
it's a way to you can shuffle characters around. Um, you can I don't know. I like trying to put the positive spin on it. Like it gives you and you said it was a it's sort of a at the table thing for you, but I think all of my players have very different thoughts and feelings about what would happen if their characters died. Katrana would be out of sorts, and I feel like Callie would want to take a break for a week or two and like figure out what she was gonna do next. And then I've got uh, Thornton playing a Thorion, the Warlock Bounty Hunter, and if he dies, he's got 6 other characters like ready to go that he could play. Um, and then there's Connie the Bard, and if he died, uh, I don't know. I don't know if James would like want that to not happen, or if he'd be fine with it if it was heroic. Um, so all of my players are pretty different in how they would feel about it. But I don't hand wave it by any means. Like it's still um, I still try to have things be threatening and dangerous without it being okay. Every encounter is a lethal encounter. Um, and again, I think that that's a session 0 chat where if your party wants the darkest dungeon, grueling, what's the like not gothic realism, but they've got a like gritty realism rules in 5e for rests where you can do like one long rest a week and then normally once a day long rests are considered to be short rests, something like that. But you can do that if that's what everybody wants in that session 0. But like I said, I want my players to get through the story, so I do medium to hard encounters, and I've dropped. They've gotten pretty close. Most recently, when I was talking about it, there was an assassination attempt on Connie the Bard, and he dropped exactly to 0 hit points and was saved. So the threat of death, I think, is more of the DM tool. So if we're trying to give DM tips, it's the threat of death more than death. It's more than that character being dead. Um, that helps to give those feelings to a party that probably doesn't want their characters killed.
yeah, I mean, well, I mean this is totally a session 0. Look around the table and say, how invested are you in this character? If you had to switch out characters mid-story, do you have and this is the other thing, do you have a good plan for that?
Oh, sure.
Because if you're playing Curse of Strahd and you're in Strahd's castle and you get dropped to -5 times your hit points and you're done, then oh, that's our cleric and he's dead. What are we gonna do?
You're gone.
Um, and sure, I mean there are ways as a dungeon master to handle that. Um,
I
that's
mean,
that's
that's
actually
what we're talking about. So what would you do?
that's, so this is exactly how I entered the Curse of Strahd game. Was I played a dwarf cleric. He was a chaplain, military chaplain of Moradin, and he was fighting Drow in Faerun, and the Drow did a dimensional door underneath him because, right, raid 101, who do you kill first? The
The
healer.
casters.
You get rid of the healers. So they dimension doored me to Barovia, and I wound up stuck in a
what
coffin.
what a place to get dimensioned. Here you go.
Boom, dimension door to Barovia. And it's like, son of a bitch. And so the party, that's how I got introduced to the party. They rescued me from this coffin. So they just hear this, hey, let me out, let me out. And the dwarf, he looks pissed.
Nice.
And
That's
but
rad.
we had one player whose character died, and he was like, yeah, I need to take a break.
Yep.
And And then I was like, yeah, I can fill in for you guys and throw me in. And then if my dwarf cleric, I'm a dwarf cleric, lawful good dwarf cleric in fighting a vampire. My life expectancy is probably not very high. So, if the other player wants to come back and play, cool. Kill me off. And if not, then I'll just keep going with the party until the end of the adventure. Um,
Nice.
but that's and
Well,
then
that's a
and
good
I guess
arrangement.
when we talk about how to handle that, that's the other thing too. As a DM, you should be sensitive to is that after 4 months of playing a character, if that character does meet an early demise or an unexpected demise, let's say, that player may need some time,
Totally.
right?
Yeah.
So that's something to think about. And again, I'm not telling people to fudge rolls. We'll talk about that next show, to keep somebody alive. But if you do wind up, everyone's agreed, yep, player death's a thing on the table. It keeps the game exciting, and this thing has happened. The human player might not be back for a couple of weeks as they process the law. It sounds silly, right? But process the
No,
loss.
it is. It's the cycle of grief and the process of mourning, because yeah, I don't know, you become attached to these characters. Like it's like crying in a movie because somebody dies. Like it sometimes when the writing is good and the actors are all present and you're immersed and something tragic happens, it's pretty human to have a human emotional reaction to that.
Right. And so don't I guess as a DM, what I'm saying is if a character gets killed, I'm not going to say you killed the character off because that's accusatory. But if a
Right, and
character
it's
winds
not.
up killed, I wouldn't, as a DM, be offended or upset or put pressure on that player to show up at the next session. Okay, hey man, I'll see you next Monday. It's like, yeah, my character just died. So, I've got 6 days now to think up a new backstory, generate a new character, and then try to work with the DM to figure out a good way to get the character into the story. Uh,
Plus whatever else you have going on in your real life, which during a time like this, for example, people have a lot.
Work, family, school, you know, other clubs, sport, whatever.
hmm
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big, that could be a heavy lift, right? And give that player some time to process the loss, and then to start thinking about what do I want to play next, right?
Yeah.
In our group, we expect to die, and we all enjoy playing different characters, right? Um, I don't think there's any of us that are really typecast to a specific type of character. So we're
Sure.
all over, right? So when we lose a character, we've already kind of got I really would like to play this. I've been on a role of evil characters for quite a while. So I think if this gem counter meets a early demise, I might wind up playing a good character just to throw my group.
I'm
Just
gonna I'm gonna play neutral good, 'cause that's crazy.
I'm gonna be a half elf druid. What? What the hell?
Yeah, that
Jack
doesn't
Skoda
sound like you.
is good? Shit. What? What's going on? The world's gone mad. Oh, the world
I
has gone.
I think that's something that I might need to talk about with my group at some point, 'cause your group seems like, oh, you died, that's fine, haha. Um, I not tried to, but when Thornton wanted to transition from the barbarian to the warlock, we had talked about it for a little bit, and he was like, "Hey, if Zazvit that barbarian dies, that's okay. Just let it be epic." And they're at a place called the Island of Terrible Lizards, and they're putzing around in open wasteland in the middle of the day, and they get attacked by a rock, and the rock scoops up
But
Zazvit, and the party goes after him
yeah,
because they don't want anyone to die.
right.
They've kind of got that. They've got a little bit of death aversity, and not that I feel like I need to kill somebody to set the tone. But it would have been okay if Zazvit died there. And instead, I had a party of level 4 characters chase a CR11 rock a couple miles into the
Ooh,
mountains to find
yeah,
its nest, and it was a mess. It was a mess.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so like things should be scary and death should be a threat, and even with a party that is death averse, um, it's good to have. It's good to have that looming.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, I recapped my last session here at the beginning, where Nana, the monk rogue character Dave was playing, pieced out. Um, and we've had a couple characters leave the group that way. And that isn't a death, but I wanted to bring it up and talk about it again because it feels like a death to some people sometimes. And so even if you don't have a character leaving the game because they're dead, having a character leave a group is my group struggled with it a bit.
Uh,
Um, the first person to leave was Clue, the fatherly but simple dwarf blood rager who managed to um, surprisingly sneak out during a night at camp and left a pile of small trinkets for somebody. But the next day and the rest of that session was, oh man, Clue's gone. And everybody's like looking over the notes that he left and the trinkets that he left for them. It felt like a wake or something, wherever like, oh, you guys remember this about Clue? I wonder if we'll ever see him again. It felt very funerary. Um,
hmm.
and so I think if you have characters leaving, that character, that player works with the DM to make it um, cinematic if that's appropriate or meaningful, or arrange something like, yeah, it's okay if my character gets killed. And maybe I should have just pulled the trigger and you all see his lifeless body carried off by the rock. That could have been okay.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean that could have been he's been torn in, the rock lands on him, tears him in half, rips out half of his innards, leaves a pile of small intestines, and then flies off.
yeah. Yep. I,
That would have solved your, we've got to chase after this thing.
like, no, he's gone. They probably still would have because they would have been like, oh, we can resurrect him somewhere. Like,
And that's and not to advertise for evil characters, but that's one of the places where an evil character can really kind of help the story along.
can
Um,
help the rest of the group to survive by not doing something foolish.
all the other, where the good characters are like, he's one of us, we've got to save him, and the evil character can go, okay, look, you saw him torn in half. He is at least 500 feet in the air. I can't even shoot a bow half that distance, and the thing is, look, you can't even see it anymore, it's flying away so fast, and you get through that jungle to get the body? No, no. I'll wait for you right here. In fact, I'll put some coffee on so when you guys come back, we'll have something nice to drink. Um,
Man, where were
and
you
that's,
when they chased the rock?
I am not in your group.
No.
Um, and I don't know. It doesn't sound like an evil character would do really well in your group.
No, no. It would be
That would start a whole argument, right? Of why can't you help? What's wrong with you? It's like, I'm helping you right now. Like I'm saving you from
I
a
I
30-mile death march. Like, come on.
you would draw the bard's ire to the point where he would like be casting friends or suggestion on you. There would be PvP roles involved. Like
Sure, absolutely. Yep.
totally would be. It could be really good for my group, but but that's not the see again, it goes back to session 0 a little bit. That's not quite the fantasy that they want and expect
Right.
from the adventure. So
Because that's not they want to be, it sounds like you're playing a very seventh sea style cinematic, everyone's a hero, everyone's good, we're trying to do this epic thing, Um,
Mm,
a lot of my group is much more tactician realistic. Like, okay, what would really? So you're in this place, and there's 4 guards, and there's 5 of us, and they don't want to back down, and they might call their friends. Like, what's really going to happen here? Like, there's a lot more of a like a
a
realistic
realistic approach.
approach in the Monday groups. So
Yeah.
so if realistic, it happens. If it's, we're not looking to be epic heroes. We're just looking, like my characters, looking to make some money and to bust some heads when she needs to.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think everyone in my group is an epic hero, but there is a general air of heroic fantasy to the
Right.
adventure. Because some of
Yeah.
them are definitely not heroes. um,
So have we talked about what player death is, right?
yeah, yeah.
And
Character death. Character
some
death.
of
We're
them
not
are
talking about player death.
not human death, right? We're talking about character death.
Yes.
Um, and we talked about some ways to handle it, right? Replacement characters is a great tactic. Like, if in my group, replacement characters is kind of the norm. Like, I'm dead, I'll rule, and we're really good about, maybe I'll take a week off and I'll roll something up over the week, and then the next week I'll have something ready to go. So that's replacement characters are not a bad idea.
Yep.
Just
The grief
it's
period. You gotta allow the grief period.
now the grief period. Um, Try to fit the new character in a way that fits with the story, not just like, hello, I am Galstaff, sorcerer of light, and I'm just happened to be here for 7 months while you guys were messing around in Port Naranzaro and slogging through the jungle, but here I am in some random place for no good reason. um,
Yeah.
that always kind of bugged me when that happens. So, as a DM, work with the player, work with the table, and figure a way to get the new character into the story in a way that makes sense. Now, that can also drive some fairly good role play because the new character shows up and they don't know what your party has been up to for the past year, right? So
Right.
now at the tavern or at the campfire or back in the tent, wherever your party hangs out for their long rests, well, we got to tell the new guy about the sorcerer, the troll under the bridge, because to get here we had to walk over this bridge. There's a troll under it. And, we tricked him the first time by throwing a goat at him, but we're goat, so we're not really sure how to get by him on the way back. And it's like, oh crap, I didn't come that way over the bridge. I came down the mountain pass. Um, I'm glad you guys told me about the goat. Or they could tell stories about their previous adventures. So that's also not a bad. Um, it's not a bad thing when you introduce that new character. Now,
Yeah, no, it
some
can be good.
some groups get a little hand wavy, like, okay, during this long rest, I'm gonna sit down, Chappie, and tell him all about why we're here in Barovia and why we don't like the gypsies.
The opposite of. Oh, sorry.
Okay. uh, the party doesn't like gypsies. And good, yeah. And I could sense that the DM was a little disappointed because we've been playing, this group had been playing for a long time, and they'd have lot of exciting things that had happened, and one of his players had summed it up in like 2 lines. Yeah, we don't like gypsies, and we're here to get rid of the vampire.
The
Okay.
opposite of that is when you have a player join and sorry, not a player. You have a player switch characters, and the other characters are too paranoid or scarred from previous encounters to be like, all right, there's this new guy. Let's corner him in a tavern and interrogate him. And then when he tries to follow us, we'll yell at him for it. Like, you get the we don't
Oh,
want somebody new. Well,
yeah.
you might need my help.
You're not part of this group. That's why I like to to incorporate that new character, I don't like the tavern like thing. I like the bad guys tied me up and stuffed me in this basket. Thank you for letting me out.
Sure.
Kind of encounter.
Yeah, like
Um,
meeting on the as part of the adventure.
part of the adventure,
You get to the cave mouth and there's somebody else. There's this elven ranger there with a small fire and a pot of tea cooking. Oh, I didn't expect anyone else to be hunting this thing.
right? Or if you do wind up back at town, um, the quest giver or the local constabulary or the king or the queen or whoever, where's your companion? Oh no, well you can't go short-handed. Take one of my knights, clerics, mages, druids, right?
What have you?
Uh, that's the authority saying, I'm sorry for your loss. Let me contribute to this by gifting you another member of your group, and then it
One up.
isn't, you know, you could tell. Yeah, I could tell the queen I don't need her. Yeah, her best night. No way, man. Get the hell out of here. We don't want you. We're gonna ask you a bunch of questions and not let you follow us around. It's like, yeah. Queen says this is her best night, or this is the knight in her retinue that needs an epic quest to become, the queen, a member of the queen's guard. So
Sure.
that giving that kind of the
We've got to
new
go. We've got to go
per-
into this tomb, and this wizard has to collect some bone dust there anyway.
right.
I like that. The quest lead in.
Yes, and so you're not really kind of, just like hello.
Yes.
And then, there's a new guy in the tavern and he's looking at you and he might want to go on your quest. It's like,
Sure.
yeah, I would be suspicious of that. And if we're back in real life, it's like, who are you and why do you want to walk around with me? And we just lost a friend. Like, who the
Right.
hell
You might die.
might die? We might die. If I die, I don't know if I want you inheriting my stuff. Like, who are you, kind of thing. So that's another thing to kind of think about is when you incorporate that new character, make sure that there's a story element that helps them integrate with the party, right?
Hmm.
Because that'll keep your adventure and your game on track, and you won't spend 2 or 3 sessions of who is this person and why are they here and what do they want, and they're not Connie the Bard, right? There's some
Right.
other person, and we miss Connie, and this person is not Connie. So, you know, or Steps on, we miss Steps on Tails, and this person is totally not Steps on Tails.
Yep. I did that a little bit when we were transitioning from the bard to the warlock there, where they were on the island and they were getting picked up, and it was like, well, this is kind of a good place to leave you because you didn't end up getting killed. So he decided to stay on the island, and the other character joined in pretty immediately. And I feel like if I could go back and do that again, I think I would have them join a session later and had thought out a little bit more of a hook to get them together like that. It was kind of that way when Connie joined my group too. Um, I think I was trying to be more accommodating to the players at that point. Um,
Well, you've got to balance that out, right? You don't want to say, "Hey, cool, you're going to play D&D with us and you're going to commit to one night a week for the rest of your natural born life," and then go next week. I'm sorry, it's just not the time for your character to join. Um,
right.
right? You want to get that character in. It's just a matter of thinking through kind of the story and what makes sense.
Yep. And I just didn't have enough time to come up with something really good, which is not like me. But
It happens.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
So
you want stuff to happen quickly, and
let's go back to what's the rule, right? What's rule number one in almost every single role play game?
is everybody having fun?
Everybody having fun, right? So even if you it was a little disjointed, is the party having fun?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so then you're fine. You've done a good job.
All right, cool. I also think that not having the threat of death can be that fun bit and we talked about it a bunch. Session 0, figure it out.
Yeah.
Um, but even so, I played a I didn't mention it at the beginning, but in addition to the main session, I played a solo session with Thornton as Zazvit, that barbarian that got left on the island. Because during the first arc of the story, he had some interactions with a demon who was doing something related to the books that they had been finding. And at this point in the world, in the calendar, um, where the main party is, there are things that are going to start happen, things that are going to start happening. And in order to know exactly how some of that worked, I had to know where this demon was, and this demon was going to interact with Zazvit. So I had to play a session with that character, with his old, with that player playing his old character. Um, and I threw 2 CR4 monsters at a level 5 barbarian, and he shredded them. I think they got him not quite to half, but he was pretty tanky. But at the end, he was like, "Hey man, that was really fun. That was a good session." So, despite not having too serious of that threat of death, but still giving a moment to be that heroic. That my party's very, they want those heroic moments. Um, so he got that, and he had fun, and I knew that the threat of death was pretty low, um, but it was good. And so I think having things that maybe death doesn't always have to be a threat for encounters to feel good, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, and that's one of I think that's one of the things I really enjoy about Seventh Sea is that there while there's no fear of death, um, the characters have objectives. They have a story that there's no experience points in Seventh Sea. You have a story, and when your story is done, it leads to whatever you wanted to do to level up. Does that make sense?
I think so.
So if you let's say you want to increase your wealth, right? You and the GM come up with a this is a 3-step story that will help you get 2 additional wealth points.
Okay.
Okay. Um, and so you have a story, you have a goal as a player character that you're trying to reach to. And as you achieve those story objectives, you check them off, right? Um, you're not going to die, but your 22-year-old swashbuckler from Castile, you don't want to play until you're 40 to get those 2 wealth points.
Sure. Right. You want to
So,
retire early.
right, and maybe that particular character is gonna die in a duel defending love, right? That's again, a lot of these characters have very epic endings, um, and so before that happens, you still want to get your 2 wealth points down. So you're working towards that objective. You're not going to die, but the dice and the play might take you in a direction that's just going to make that more and more challenging,
Right.
right? And I think that's the goal. I think that's a lot of these games. Um, it's the challenge and that the penalty, right? If you can't really have a challenge without a penalty, the penalty in lots of games is you're done. Your character is passed on, and you're sorry, but
I think you've got
you're
a lot more than you're done. There's the matter of whatever you were doing in the world still needing to be resolved despite your death.
sure.
Like it doesn't affect the world that if one of my characters in my game dies, like their family will mourn them, their friends will be bummed out, but it doesn't change anything that's happening with the forces that are threatening everything. So,
Hmm. Okay.
And I think you since you've been talking also about 7th Sea a bunch and how death is rare and requires a villain, and I'm thinking about this, within the frame of my own game, in that um, they are getting out of that fledgling adventurer zone into sort of local hero status, and I I think that I am writing it to be similar to 7th Sea, and that as you get closer and closer to the end, you have a greater chance to die. Um, in my game, things are becoming more dangerous, and in something like 7th Sea, the villain is becoming more prominent.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and I think that's your if you look at even if you look at like the Skull and Shackles adventure path from Pathfinder, um, as you get into books 5 and 6, the challenge ratings are much higher. The risks are greater, but the rewards. I mean, the reward at the end of that adventure path is you get to retire as a pirate prince, right? You get your own island. You get a bunch of
Ooh.
ships that are doing things for you. Like the reward is big, but that the risk is equally challenging.
Hmm.
And I think, I mean, and again, I'm not trying to tell people they're playing characters wrong, but when I get to higher level like that, when I start to get to those, and it's not going to happen in my group quite the same way, but when I start to get to level 9, 10, 11, I want to hire people. Like I want to hire a level 1, 2 fighter to walk
Sure.
around and fight with me. I want to hire a level 1, 2 bard to throw me inspiration. Like in it's more, it's like the real world, right? I mean, that's my DM back in high school hated me because when I played Tomb of Horrors, it's like, well, I'm a level 14 cavalier. Like I'm a prince. I have 6 men at arms and I have all, like, we're gonna I'm gonna take my laborers out of the field and stop growing turnips for my dad and go to this mound where there's supposed to be this dungeon and start digging in holes. And
Sure.
and he's like, and my DM was like, "You're gonna ruin this whole adventure, aren't you?" It's like, no, I'm not, but I'm gonna execute my what I would do from the mindset of I'm a 35-year-old prince of a small kingdom and I've got about 170 people that I can boss around at any one time. Like,
Right.
no, I'm not going to light a torch and gird my loins and draw my sword and walk into the cave. That's not how that works. Just like that's not how it works in the real life. Like, um, Elon Musk builds Teslas, right? Well,
Well,
he isn't the jackass on the assembly line with
he
the
doesn't specifically, yeah.
he hires people and he trains people and he has a vision and this is the vision I'm going on. And I have always kind of played my higher level characters along the same route. Like if I'm a
Interesting.
level 14 assassin, am I killing people?
Yeah.
Maybe I am,
I'm
but
not gonna hire you to pay a level 1 to go do it and botch the job. I'm hiring you to do it because you're
I'm
level 14. Like,
You're hiring me to whack another high challenge rating person. But as a level 14 assassin, I need a little protection because there's probably people out to kill me. So I'm going to need some employees. I'm going to need some staff. I have a massive amount of wealth, right? I'm also a stickler for
maybe.
encumbrance in some of these games, right? Where if you have a household, like who's dusting? Like you're gonna come back from your adventure and all the food in your pantry is rotten. There's a 3-inch layer of dust on everything. There's no water in the cisterns, and no one's cleaned the chamber pot. Like your house reeks, dude. It's like, oh
Well,
shit,
yeah, it's upkeep definitely.
sure. but that's and we're way away from character death now. So let's bring this back and talk about high level characters in another show.
Sure, sure. Because I was gonna go into a whole thing about how I do it totally differently as high level characters because they're the ones who get hired to do the things, and I don't want it to be like real life. So,
Yeah,
but yes, we'll put high level characters as a separate.
I'm putting that in the show notes now.
Oh, I already tacked it on the end there. Um, it's back you said back to player death, but
I think we're done.
I think so. It's give space, help integrate new characters, decide whether or not you want to deal with it at the beginning before it becomes an issue, and help people through it who have to experience it. Yeah, I mean, losing a character isn't fun in most
The-
cases.
Here's the other thought, right? I'll throw this out. Sometimes it is the best way to get a party focused or to remove a problem.
Oh, sure. And that's not a hey DMs go kill your problem player's character.
No, that is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if you've got a party that's very much putzing and they're kind of motivation, right?
Mhm.
Right? The party's unmotivated. They're not really looking for ways to solve the problem. It's like, gosh, I've been in this dungeon for. You guys have been in the dungeon for 4 months of real player playtime, and it's been like 2 weeks. You're out of food. Oh, well, I guess we better find a way out. You're starting to starve. Like,
Right.
so
Real threats.
real threats. So and yeah, if you do have and I'm not saying get rid of a problem player with a character death. I'm saying get rid of a problem character. So problem
Sure.
players, you as the DM have to deal with in the real world. You can't just kill them off and go, okay, man, dude, your character's dead. You can't play here anymore. That's not a really that is a way to handle that. That is not. I wouldn't recommend that as the way to. I wouldn't recommend that. Okay.
Mhm.
Um, Deal with the person. Say, hey, look, your play style is really not what we're looking for at this table, and you're making everybody else uncomfortable, and your play choices are kind of questionable. You really got to stop cursing and touching other players, whatever it is, right?
Yes. Yes.
Mouthful,
Refer to the problem player episode for that.
right? Don't just kill their character and say, hey, you can't play here anymore. That's kind of a dick move.
It
Um,
is. It's lame.
but if you have a character who's not working, right? Um,
You had
and
a dwarf gunslinger?
I did. I had a dwarf gunslinger, and he was not working. He was a sailor in a jungle. He was out of his element. He didn't know why he was. We did. I did an okay job of integrating him into the group. But then, as a mid-level gunslinger without magical guns, he was tits on a bull, right? Totally useless. Like, okay, I'm gonna shoot. Okay, half damage. I'm gonna shoot. Okay, half damage. Okay, I'm gonna reload. Okay, good. The dwarf's reloading, and everybody else is fighting and doing active things. I'm gonna shoot. Okay, half damage. I'm gonna shoot. Okay, no damage.
Yeah.
I'm gonna.
At that point,
And
it becomes not fun, right? That was the.
it was. I mean, the role play was good, and he was a good character, and I really enjoyed his story. Um, but I just didn't. It wasn't. I wasn't having a good time.
Right.
And I talked to my DM and I said, "Look, I'm not having a good. I love playing with you guys, but this character is just not. I'm not good with this character. I want something different." Um, and he said, "Well, you guys are. When we took the break last, you were fighting." And I said, "So my character's frustrated. I'm frustrated with my character, and my character's frustrated that he's not combat effective. So he is going to go out in a blaze of glory, like." the massive devils keep spawning through the gates, and they've surrounded us, and the whole party's climbed onto this massive stone statue to try to get away from the devils, so they only have to fight one or two at a time. I said, there's the she devil in the corner who's doing all the summoning. My character is going to light the fuse on all the gunpowder for his muskets and jump into her arms and say, "Kiss me, bitch." And and the DM, he had that same reaction. He started laughing. He goes, "That is awesome." He's like, "Do you have a new character to roll up?" And it's like, I will think about one after the session. And so he let me do it. He let me kill my character as a player. My DM let me kill myself, so that I could get a different character who was more effective and better suited for the place where we were at in the story. So
Nice. Well, on that explosive ending, I don't know that I could think of a better way to end talking about player death than a story about a really good one.
all right.
So this has been Set the Table episode 9. If you have tuned in, thanks a whole bunch. If you would like to interact with us, ask a question, comment, feel free to do so. You can find me on Twitter at jamskoda5, or you can follow and tweet at redhoodiegames. You can also visit redhoodiegames5.wordpress.com for alternating weekly content. Last week I had missed a couple weeks, so I posted a triad of tables for determining random weather effects that had effects on players, so making your world a little bit more impactful. And finally, if you'd like to support us any more than just listening, subscribing, watching, whatever it is that you do, wherever you do it, please visit patreon.com/Skoda, that's Skoda, and any support, any comments, any love would be fantastic. That's going to do it for us, and we will see you next time. Are you going to say good day, eh?
Oh, good day. Sorry, I thought you already hit the button.